Roza.
Hi, Konstantin.
Welcome to Faces of Armenia. It's our pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So maybe to start things off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, your narrative?
I'm a senior research and development engineer and founder of 2 startups right now. One is called ERP Smart System. We are trying to revolutionize CRM market, especially the configuration part, because 92% of the companies are actually installing CRM systems, but only 27% is using it. If someone doesn't know, it's customer relationship management tool. And the problem is they are choosing wrong configurations, features, and wrong CRM tools for their business. We're trying to use big data and machine learning to solve this problem. We also have a CRM system which is used by some companies here. And another startup is called CARDY. It's a platform, an application where which you can download and you can create your electronic business cards, as many as you want. See who is around. It actually uses your location to see cool people around you, to recommend. You can save their cards with comment tags. Later you can find them easily, and it will be connected with
So you seem like a very entrepreneurial individual, but it has to have some origin. So, how does your childhood play into your entrepreneurial instincts? Or where were you born? Let's start with the basics.
I was born actually in the border, in a small village in the border with Azerbaijan. A lot of tensions, war going on. My father got injured during war, and so shootings was something regular for me. I wasn't even being surprised, but I always wanted to be independent. I don't know why. I think when I was younger I used to be more feminist. When I was a child, I wanted to prove all the time that I can do better than men. I wanted to be independent, and I realized at a very early age that the only way for real independence is financial independence. So when I was 16, I graduated from school and I went to the university.
So let's put this into perspective. All your peers were 18, 19? You were 16 or?
I was 16 when I...
Yeah, but how old were your peers when you graduated? The other pupils in your class?
Something like 18, 17,
okay.
Same, not
so
that
you spearheaded 2 years.
1 year, actually, 1 year. Okay. Yeah, so I decided to come to Yerevan and I started living alone almost. I, of course, got some roommate. She was from Georgia.
By the age of 16?
Yes.
Wow.
But then my father and mother, my parents were supporting me, and I always wanted to be independent. So I started working when I was studying still second year. I was doing some courseworks and homeworks of other students for money. That's...
Okay, now I have to ask you. So it seems like you are always driven, and that is your way of recognizing the world around you. But did it have any impact of you moving from a border village to a large town like Yerevan? Or was it more the ambition of being driven?
I was probably lucky to have some good teachers at school. Not all of them were good, but I had some. And they were actually making me more... I was more ambitious. I wanted to do something good for the people, and I wanted to go to do science or business. So even though my classmates, they didn't like studying, it was not a good class, I would say. But I mean, it didn't stop me from studying. I actually didn't lose my motivation. So moving to Yerevan is actually both. I wanted to move to the city, even though I miss village sometimes. But also, and more importantly, because I wanted to study and I wanted to become a professional.
So let's dwell on this a bit. How was your first year living in Yerevan alone in a very new environment?
I had some roommates from Georgia, as I said. She was very like socializing. She had many friends, but I was like first years I was like really not doing anything except from like studying. I didn't know anything in any place in Yerevan. I could only go to the university and back to home. I mean, it's hard to believe, but I've been living for 3 years in Yerevan and I didn't know anything in Yerevan actually. I felt like I have to do more than the rest of my friends in the university to achieve.
And did your hard work pay off?
There was a program with Synopsys, that it's called Synopsys Educational Department, where you could actually start studying and working at the same time. It was like from university to industry, and it helped me a lot. Like I went there and I started working after a year.
So Roza, I believe you made us all curious. Such a hard-working young girl in your first years here in Yerevan. And then you mentioned you went into the Synopsys program. So what was your first job experience? In which industry did you work?
I worked in VLSI design, so it's basically chip design. It's electronics design and automation. I worked there for 8 months or something like that, 9 months. And then I got an offer from another company. It was a Silicon Valley based company which was doing network on chip interconnect. It's called Sonics. It was acquired by Facebook recently. We were doing translating from one protocol to another one. So basically memories, processors that are using different bits and protocols, they can talk to each other in one chip. So I worked there for some time and then I went to US. I started doing some project that was something new for them, and later they sold exactly this product to Facebook. So basically I just did the MVP of the product.
Great.
I worked there for some months and I got an offer to stay and work there from a different company. But I rejected the offer because first of all I wanted to stay in Sonics. I was sent by this company, and also because I had sisters here who just got into university and I had to support them because my parents couldn't, both financially and not only in Yerevan. I was able to survive alone here, but not everyone.
Okay, wait, then how long did you stay in the US?
It was almost like a year or something, a bit less.
How was it for you to go to a different country, to work in a different culture, to meet other people? Do you think it was valuable to your understanding of Armenia?
Of course it was. I met actually a person was working with me from Hamilton family, whose family is the founder of US, one of like founding families. And it was really like an interesting experience, a completely different one. There were of course some cultural misunderstandings in the beginning, like I didn't used to say hello every time I meet people, and sometimes they would think like I'm very rude or I'm mad at them, like, which wasn't the case. I had to change this in me. I had to work on myself. And later, when I was back in Armenia, I felt like when I was smiling to people, they were looking at me like, she's crazy or something like that. Why is she smiling? Or why does she say hello each time? We already said hello to each other. So yeah, and there are a lot of great things in Silicon Valley, the working culture and like know-how you can learn there. It's actually great, amazing. It's a hub where everyone comes from all around the world. But there were some things I didn't like I don't like driving. And like without car, surviving in US, it's quite difficult, especially in these small cities.
So you were living in a smaller town near
I was
Silicon
living
Valley?
in Milpitas, yes. It's a Silicon Valley town, yeah. So, yeah, it was actually a definitely great experience. I couldn't get this experience by staying in Armenia.
Your character or your hindsight added breadth. You got more perspectives. You feel like the US experience matured you.
I was shy when I went to US, but now I can go to some CEO of some top company and talk to him directly or her. Like I developed this self-confidence. I started developing. I didn't develop there. I started developing already. So it was definitely a great experience. I met amazing people there, and I think there are a lot of talks about American politics right now and so on. But American people are great. I think, especially people who are living in Silicon Valley.
How did you translate the skills that you learned in Silicon Valley to Armenia? How did they materialize over here when you came back? What changed?
It didn't happen immediately because I kept working for, I came back, I started working for Sonics, continued working for Sonics, but then one of the Sonics former employees left the company, and he actually started his own company by stealing the codes of his former employer. So they had really difficulties. They were almost bankrupt. Yeah. So because of all these legal things, they were in with these people. And one of their friends actually stayed in the company and continued telling information to him.
And you were in a twist, like didn't really know, yes, you liked the person who left, but you also liked Sonic.
I didn't talk to him since I knew about that. I was told about
So like this really shattered you.
Yes, I mean, I believe that it's not honest, and most of the people in the company believe that if he's that kind of person, like he's ready to steal the code, he's probably also that kind of friend, like.
Yes.
So yes, I don't have any information about him. Probably they are part of Qualcomm or something, because this company acquired them. And yes, we were told that we can look for a job because they were closing the office in Armenia because of financial difficulties. I went to National Instruments, where I met our current IT minister and deputy minister as well, though I don't remember the deputy minister that well. I worked there for 3 months. But then Sonics called me back because they had some projects I had to support them. And after that, I stayed one more year, and then I went to a different company, completely different one. I started working for payment systems for European market. That is the biggest company in Europe. And it's Atos called. We are working here. There is a company that works for Atos here, and we have been developing payment systems, point of sales terminals, payment. I went to Brussels again for some months, and I have some experience of working in Europe as well. So this was very different from US.
So all this experience was working in different countries for different people and organizations. Did it in a way help you or instill a sense of entrepreneurialism? Like did it make you think, hey, let's do something on our own, we can do it, like I see a need for the market and I believe in myself?
Yeah, I always want to be independent, like even though independence is something like really relative, a person is 100% independent only in the jail. because it doesn't have a responsibility, any responsibility. Because freedom is responsibility. When you have responsibilities, you are not free anymore. It's kind of like a dilemma or something. So it's difficult to say who is more independent, the guy who is in the jail or top CEO who has too much things to finish or do. Or
do you imply that you link independence with your entrepreneurship?
I was working for 10 hours a day or maybe more for someone else, and I didn't have that much freedom to change something. Even if I was coding, it was really fixed. I wasn't deciding too much. But I saw that I could change things. Like I wanted to have more freedom in my mind, what I mean, like to do whatever I want to do, yes, to have some control and to do whatever actually I want to do. Of course, if you start a company, you are not going to do whatever you want to do. It's actually the opposite. When you already get an investment or you have customers, yes, then it becomes like even more responsibility and you understand your employer now. But I still think this was the right decision to do.
How do you see entrepreneurship in Armenia? Was Armenia critical in helping you pursue this path? And how did you see it develop over the last 5 years?
Entrepreneurship in Armenia is not great, and it's understandable because we have been...
Let's be specific. What do you mean by not great? Meaning there's no infrastructure?
No, it's mindset. Like for me, really entrepreneurship is a mindset. It was a Soviet country, no business mindset, whatever. People still believe, many people, that the government has to do something for them, like, or the state. Meanwhile, they have freedom, like they can do whatever they want, they can start the business they want. So this is a little bit difficult. For me as well, I was also part of that culture, but being in US and working all the time with US companies or European, I think I developed this kind of entrepreneurial mindset. I feel that it's changing now. People are changing their mindset, especially in IT, and the environment is also changing. Like for the start, there are many things for the startups. The government is doing many things, but like now you see the opposite. Now people just want to have startup because it's cool, you know, without any meaning behind it. It's also like a bubble. And
do you think it's just a trend, it's a fad that comes and goes? Because I think, like, take a look of being an entrepreneur is about failing, and you have to have do things without purpose. One thing here, one thing because you studied maybe humanities, like a research project or a conversation on human perspectives, whatever, but it's about only through failing you gradually learn, okay, what kind of a person am I, and in what kind of business I would be good, what am I passionate about it. So I think it's a normal process to have a less focused approach to entrepreneurship initially.
The problem with Armenia, I think, is also that most of the startuppers also work for some other companies. This is kind of like a side job. Okay, I'm doing a startup, but this is not how it works. It's not going to work like that. Maybe in the beginning, just to start something, yes. But if you want really to succeed, you have to be very quick, because you're not the only one who has this idea. If you get some idea, then there are like probably 200 people who get the same idea in Silicon Valley. So they also have better environment for that. You have to take this into account as well, and you have to work even harder to be successful. What Armenia helped me in some way, because like workforce here is cheaper, and also it's easy like to tell your friend, hey, let's start something. I don't know US. If I was
in
there,
a way you are in a very receptive environment.
yes, this environment is mine. Maybe if I lived in US for, I don't know, 10 years, I would feel the same in US as well. But right now, I think for starting a business, Armenia was better choice for me because I know the people and I feel like I'm home.
How did your experience in the corporate world play into being an entrepreneur?
You cannot apply the style of big companies to startups because it's more dynamic. I work Saturdays.
But does it make you a good leader? Do you think you learned something, you became in a way a professional?
I became a survivor, let's say. I'm not sure about being professional. I changed my mindset. Before I was at my comfort zone, now I'm more dynamic, more responsive, more like I have more chances to survive, I would say. Now I feel I'm put in the same condition as like when I started studying in Yerevan or I went to US. It's a different kind of insecurity, but still like you should always put yourself in a non-comfortable situation.
So
only in that case you will develop.
Very interesting. When we started to talk, you mentioned like that you were very close-minded. You just had your job in your like site, and that was it, and going home. So you think entrepreneurship helped you develop your personality, your character? You become a more open person?
Yes, in a way, yes and no. I became more socializing. I have so many connections with different people, but I don't really have like really close friends. Or I think I became more like robot style. All this virtual life, talking to these people all the time. It actually is distracting as well. I used to write a book. Now I feel like I'm distracted by all of this. But hopefully one day when I retire, I'm writing a book about transhumanism.
Okay, so. And how do you really juggle, in a way, being an entrepreneur in Armenia and your private life?
Well,
or your social life, in a way?
That's difficult. Like, I don't have time left.
Yeah. So it's a 24-hour job?
I have to choose between private life and my startup life, unfortunately. Hopefully this is temporary, yeah.
Maybe the future will show that there's always a crossroad.
Maybe. I'm probably mismanaging my time because I believe it's possible to have both.
So now we come to a part, I think, that moves us all. Can you share your unique perspective on Armenia, and where do you pinpoint really the problems to help Armenia move to a positive growth trajectory in the future?
I think the problem that Armenia is facing is typical to former Soviet Union countries. When they were exposed to like neoliberal capitalism, they were not ready for that. They went to another extreme. So they didn't have the skills, but they were put in that environment. It will take time to fix the problems. With this revolution, I'm positive and pessimist at the same time, because when I look at the government, most of them are not entrepreneurs, or they didn't start their business from zero. They just worked for some organizations, non-governmental organizations, or just working for someone. I don't trust this kind of people as government. I believe change will come only when the government has this mindset of entrepreneurship.
You say it's a governmental perspective. The government shows the lead, people follow.
Yes, and the opposite is also true. But like what I see in the government, Yeah, I see that most of the majority of government people, they are not business people, they are not scientists, they are mostly like people who worked for some non-governmental organizations, propaganda or whatever. I have less trust for these people. I have more trust, for example, for IT ministry, because I know people there. They did real work. Some of them started their own businesses. And I believe people who know how to build a business from zero, or they have a scientist mindset, engineering mindset, I would say, they're more successful in managing people as well. Because it's all about optimization. It's all about engineering. Politics is actually an engineering, system engineering, when you have so many things, you have to optimize, you have to find the best solution.
So then what do you think is the greatest quality of Armenians living in Armenia?
Hospitality, like people are very kind, family ties, this is good for business. You see, like this tribal way of thinking is usually like what is winning in business. The more Armenia becomes European, the more we are losing this as well. We are gaining some good qualities, but also...
So let me ask you, how do you take the qualities that you mentioned, family ties, tribal way of thinking, and transform them to help Armenia as a country?
That's again something that, as I said, the government that has engineering mindset should think about that. But unfortunately, I don't see that government now in Armenia. Maybe, I hope I'm wrong, but let's hope I'm wrong.
Okay. And then, to conclude, what makes such a very ambitious, successful woman with a broad experience like you get out of bed every day?
My customers, my dreams, because we live only because we have dreams. The bigger your dream is, more resistant you are to any kind of difficulties. Have you tried waiting for the results of your medical analysis? That's the worst time. I mean, even if you know you are sick, it's less painful than when you are waiting for something, because you don't know your condition, you don't have dreams, you don't know what to dream about. So it's a difficult condition. People are living with dreams, and I think that's my dream that forces me to wake up every morning, which is very difficult because I sleep very late.
Roza, with that being said, it was my pleasure to welcome you at Faces of Armenia. And I think you're a great asset for the Armenian community, the Armenian country, and we are proud to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure.